The python strikes. Its massive coils unravel from the underbrush in one fluid, horrifying motion. The boy screams, pinned against a mossy log as the serpent lunges, jaws gaping, a split second from wrapping him whole. And then a roar, not from the boy, not from the trees, from behind. A black shadow tears through the greenery, bark cracks. Fists slam into the earth with thunderous force. What do you think happened next? Birds chirp from the canopy, leaves shimmer in filtered sunlight. Boots crunch on damp earth as the tour group winds through Loango's lower trail system, a family-friendly loop used for wildlife education. Leading the way is Marco Lemmy, a seasoned park ranger with years of quiet confidence. "Stay together," he calls over his shoulder, eyes sharp, feet slow, and don't touch the vines. They're not all friendly. In the middle of the group, Sam, a 10-year-old with a gap-toothed smile and a worn adventure hat, grins at his dad. "Bet I find a gorilla before you do." His father, Eric, chuckles. "Bet I carry you back if you get us lost." But Sam is already distracted. Something flits across the trail, a flash of red and green wings. "A trogon," he whispers, eyes wide. He steps off the path. "Hey, Sam," Eric warns, "stay close." But Sam doesn't hear him. The bird darts again, deeper into the foliage. Sam follows, ducking under vines, pushing past leaves. Every step seems smaller, quieter, until the group is out of sight. Then, everything changes. A sound, low, heavy, a shift in the brush. Sam freezes. Just ahead, coiled between roots, lies a massive python, at least 15 feet long, mottled skin, black glass eyes, and the kind of stillness that only means one thing: it's watching him. Sam backs away slowly, but steps on a branch. Snap! The snake rises, body unraveling, tongue flicking. Sam gasps and stumbles, landing hard against a fallen log. His back hits bark. He's trapped. He screams. In the forest canopy above, hidden from the human path, a lone silverback gorilla watches. Kumo, known to rangers but rarely seen, sits silent. His eyes narrow, his body shifts. Below, Sam is sobbing. "Help, please, somebody!" The python begins to move, slow, wide circles, cutting off any chance of escape. Sam grabs a stick, but his hands tremble too much to hold it steady. Back on the trail, Eric stops cold. "Did you hear that?" Marco lifts a hand. The forest is too quiet now. "Sam," Eric says again, panic creeping into his voice. Marco doesn't wait. He turns off the trail and breaks into a run. Back near the clearing, Sam's voice grows hoarse. "I didn't mean to. Please!" The python coils tighter, just as it begins to rise. A crack of branches explodes from the trees behind it. Kumo crashes down. The silverback lands between boy and serpent with a thunderous roar, fists slamming into the earth. The snake recoils. And Sam? He just stares, frozen, at the giant who came out of nowhere to save him. The underbrush crackles beneath Kumo's charge. Leaves explode as the silverback barrels forward, thundering on all fours. The python lifts higher, hissing, its coils tightening defensively around the air. But the gorilla is not deterred. He slams both fists into the earth just feet from the boy, sending a shockwave of sound through the clearing. Sam watches in stunned silence. His legs won't move. His chest won't rise. All he can do is stare at the monster in front of him and the giant now standing between them. The python coils tighter, sensing threat. Kumo turns slightly, positioning himself fully between the snake and the boy. High above, a hidden research drone captures the moment. A child cowering behind a gorilla, the snake poised like a bow drawn to full tension. Kumo growls low, deep and chesty, not a warning, a challenge. The python doesn't strike, not yet. Back on the trail, Marco leads the search, machete in hand. Eric crashes through vines behind him, wild with panic. "He wouldn't go far," Eric shouts. "He's a kid, not a—" "Wait," Marco interrupts, holding up a hand. A sound, far off. A hollow boom like someone slamming stone against the forest floor. Marco's eyes widen. That's not thunder. They push harder, faster, ignoring protocol. Back at the clearing, the standoff holds. Kumo pounds his chest once, loud, fast, controlled. Sam flinches. The python lowers slightly, recalculating. It shifts its coils along the forest floor, slowly curling into a tighter strike shape. Then, with terrifying speed, it lunges, but not at Sam, at Kumo's exposed side. The silverback pivots with stunning force, grabbing a fallen branch thicker than a man's arm and swinging hard. Wood cracks. The branch collides with the python's upper body mid-lunge, sending it sprawling sideways into the brush. Sam shrieks. Kumo turns and growls again, this time louder. He doesn't chase the snake. He stands his ground, feet wide, chest puffed, blocking the boy. The python recoils, stunned. Its muscles ripple. It doesn't try again. For 10 agonizing seconds, it stares at the silverback and then slithers back into the bush, vanishing like smoke. Sam bursts into tears. Kumo glances back. Their eyes meet, child and beast. And in that frozen moment, the boy sobs, quiet, just a little. Kumo doesn't roar, doesn't gloat. He simply lowers his arms and exhales, massive chest rising and falling. From behind, Marco's voice breaks through. There, Sam. Kumo stiffens. Don't move, Marco warns, raising a hand to Eric, who is already running forward. Kumo doesn't bolt. He watches, judges. A single breath passes. Then, as Eric pulls Sam into his arms, Kumo steps backward into the green, disappearing as silently as he came. 2 hours later, the forest is calm again, but inside the reserve's ranger station, tension is rising. Play it again, Marco says. The footage loops back. On screen, the silverback bursts through the trees. The python lunges, and then impact, a branch smashing the snake's flank. The gorilla taking the hit head-on, the boy huddled and frozen behind them. Naya, the park's primatologist, leans in close, eyes scanning every frame. This shouldn't be possible, she mutters. Silverbacks don't behave like this. Not toward humans, not toward predators. Not unless they're provoked, Marco adds. But he wasn't. Eric paces near the back wall, arms crossed, face pale. He saved my son. That's all I care about. Sam lies curled in a cot nearby, blanket wrapped tightly around his shoulders. He hasn't spoken much since the rescue, but when he does, it's always the same sentence. He didn't want to hurt me. Naya kneels beside him. Can you tell me what he did when the snake was there? Sam nods slowly. He stood in front of me, like he was mad at the snake, not me. She watches him for a moment, then looks at Marco. He perceived the boy as part of his troop, or something like it. Back in the clearing, the ranger team collects evidence. Torn bark, crushed leaves, deep fist prints in the mud. One of the drone techs pulls the SD card from the overhead camera. This was recording the whole time, he says. Marco nods. Then the world's about to see a gorilla take on a python to protect a human child. Later that night, the footage is reviewed again, this time frame by frame. Naya focuses on one detail others missed. Look here, she says. Just before the snake lunges, Kumo steps left. He doesn't just guard the boy, he predicts the strike. Marco leans in. That's not instinct, that's calculation. A long pause, then Naya whispers, it's intelligence. Meanwhile, Eric sits outside the ranger post, phone in hand. The screen shows a paused frame. Sam, crying behind the silverback, the snake's head mid-lunge, Kumo in full motion. Eric exhales slowly. You don't get second chances out there, he says to no one. Sam walks out quietly and sits beside him. Dad? Yeah, buddy. He wasn't scared. Eric looks down. The gorilla? Sam nods. He was, like you when you're mad, but not mean, just big. Eric smiles faintly, wrapping an arm around his son. Yeah, Big's one word for it. Deep in the forest, far from the trails, Kumo rests beneath a tree. His knuckles are scraped. His chest still heaves slightly, but his eyes, calm. In the distance, something rustles. He doesn't flinch, doesn't rise. Whatever fear once lived in this patch of forest, it now belongs to something else. Morning sunlight cuts through the mist as the reserve gates swing open for a scheduled press visit. But this time, the staff isn't focused on tours or safety briefings. Everyone's eyes are on one thing, the screen. Drone footage, now stitched together into a clean clip, plays silently in the Ranger conference room. The moment Kumo appears, bursting from the foliage, there's an audible gasp. He knew, Naya says softly, arms folded. He knew that boy was in danger. He didn't just drive the snake off, Marco adds. He shielded him, took the hit. Park Director Gerard Boissy runs a hand through his graying hair. I've seen elephants mourn, chimps deceive, leopards solve puzzles. But this? He shakes his head. This is something else. Outside, Sam walks with Eric along the outer perimeter trail. He clutches a wooden carving in his hands, rough, child-made, the shape of a gorilla. Are we going back to where it happened? He asks. Eric looks down. Only if you want to. Sam nods. I do. They meet Marco and Naya at the trailhead, and together they walk, quietly, reverently, until they reach the clearing. The underbrush has already started reclaiming the chaos. Broken branches, pressed earth, tracks nearly faded, but the log where Sam had fallen remains, and behind it, the space where Kumo had stood like a wall. Sam steps forward and places the carving on the mossy log. He deserves something, he says. Naya kneels beside him. He'll know. A few meters away, Marco speaks into a handheld radio. Ranger Team 4, status? Camera units live, a voice replies. We've got motion in Sector 5, large primate, heading east. Toward us? Marco asks. Negative, holding distance, watching. Marco turns toward the forest. Kumo! From the tree line, deep in shadow, a pair of amber eyes glint through the leaves. Kumo is there, still, silent. He watches Sam place the carving, watches the boy step back. No threat, no fear. Eric spots him. There, he whispers. Sam looks up. Their eyes meet. It doesn't last long. 5 seconds, maybe less, but it's enough. Sam lifts his hand slowly, palm out. Kumo doesn't mimic it. He doesn't need to. Instead, he lets out a low, steady grunt. Calm, measured, then vanishes into the foliage. Later that evening, a new sign is added to the park's education center. A mounted photo of Kumo mid-charge, arms raised, fury in his eyes. Underneath, a single line. Courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it just steps in front of fear. In the control room, Naya loads a new batch of footage into the database. Before closing the file, she adds one tag to the record, behavioral classification, unknown. Emotional intent, protective. Suggested category, heroic. Outside, as dusk falls over the reserve, Sam sits quietly near the enclosure fence. He doesn't speak. He just listens, waiting. And somewhere not far off, the jungle answers. The story spreads like wildfire. The drone footage is released to the media. Within hours, it's everywhere. News anchors stammering over silverback intervention. Experts debating instinct versus empathy. The headline dominates for a week. Gorilla fights off giant python to save human child. But while the world watches from behind screens, at the reserve, something quieter is unfolding. Inside the staff lodge, Naya flips through her notebook. The pages are filled with sketches, timestamps, behavioral notes, all centered around one name, Kumo. It's not just memory, she says to Marco. It's response, awareness, protection triggered not by threat to self, but threat to someone else. Marco nods. He wasn't defending territory, He wasn't posturing, he made a decision. In the days following the incident, Sam begins drawing again. Images of Kumo standing tall, images of snakes curled and shrinking away. Each picture features the same detail. Sam behind the gorilla's legs, safe. Eric tapes one of the drawings above his desk. "He's sleeping through the night again," he tells Naya. "I didn't think he would." The reserve receives thousands of letters, some from school children who watched the video in class, others from veterans, parents, trauma survivors. One reads, "I used to be afraid of everything, but if a gorilla can protect a little boy from a python, then maybe the world isn't as cruel as I thought." One afternoon, Sam asks Marco a question that stops him cold. "Do you think Kumo remembers me?" Marco considers, then says, "I think he knew exactly who you were, even before you did." A week later, a dedication ceremony is held at the edge of the forest. A small wooden statue of a gorilla stands under a rain shelter carved by local artisans. It faces the trail, head slightly turned, posture still. Sam is asked if he wants to say something. He steps up shyly, voice small but clear. "I think he saw I was scared, and he wasn't, and then I wasn't either." Later that evening, as the last guests leave, Sam walks back to the statue alone. He kneels and sets down a drawing, a picture of Kumo, roaring, fists raised, eyes burning with light. Behind the boy in the picture, the python fades into the trees. He whispers, "Thank you," then walks away. From somewhere deep in the jungle, just beyond the trail, a low rumble echoes, barely audible, carried by the wind. Marco turns his head sharply. "You heard that?" Naya smiles. He's still watching. In the closing shot, we return to the moment frozen in time, when Kumo stood between child and predator, one arm extended, one breath separating two lives. Not instinct, not training, just something greater. And for those who witnessed it, in person, on screen, or in spirit, it became a reminder of something rare. That sometimes the wild isn't what we should fear, sometimes it's what saves us. What happened that day wasn't survival, it wasn't instinct, it wasn't chance, it was choice, made in the quiet seconds between danger and action. By a creature most of us were taught to fear. Kumo didn't hesitate. He didn't think of species or risk or logic. He just stepped forward, because something in him said, "That child should not die today." Some call it intelligence, others call it emotion. But maybe it's something even more powerful, compassion, unspoken, unexpected, and unforgettable. If this story moved you, like, comment, and subscribe. And ask yourself, when fear rises, who will you be? The one who runs, or the one who stands between?